All rise. We will. International Criminal Court is now in session. L'audience de la Cour pénale internationale est ouverte.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please be seated.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Your Honors. This is the situation in Kenya in the case of Ruto et al., case number ICC-01/09-01/11. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you, court officer. On behalf of the chamber, I welcome the parties and the participant, the legal representative for victims. At this instance, I would invite the parties, starting with the Office of the Prosecutor, to present themselves. Who is with you here today, Mr. Ocampo?
Thank you, Madam President. The Office of the Prosecutor is represented by Ms. Cynthia Tai, Ms. Jamiso Bisho, Ms. Karen Corey, Ms. Lara Renton, and Ms. Grace Go, and the prosecutor himself, Luis Moreno Campos.
Thank you, Mr. Ocampo. Please be seated. Now I turn to the defense to present yourselves.
Thank you, Madam President and Your Honors. For Mr. Ruto, it is David Hooper, QC, assisted by Caroline Busman, and my name is Kioko Kilukumi, representing Mr. William Ruto.
Thank you. Now it's the turn of the defense team of Mr. Kosgey.
For the defense of Mr. Kosgey, I'm George Oraro. I appear with Julius Kemboy, Alan Kosgey, and Leanne Aronchik.
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you, Madam President.
And finally, the defense team of Mr. Sang.
My name is Katwa Kigen. I appear for Mr. Sang together with Mr. Joel Bosek, Mr. Philemon Koech, and Logan Hambrick.
Thank you. I would ask the legal representative for the 327 victims that have been accorded the status of victims participant in these proceedings to present herself.
Madam President, members of the chamber, I am Saretta Chana and I represent the victims in this case.
Thank you. And finally, we shouldn't forget the Office of the Registrar that is supporting and assisting us in the proceedings. Please, Madame Arbia.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Your Honors. For the registry, myself, Silvana Arbia, Registrar. With me, Natasha Schoder, who is Associate Legal Officer in the Unit for Witnesses and Victims, and Cyril Lauci, Legal Officer. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's William Kipchirchir Samoei Ruto.
Yes.
Born on the 21st of December 1966 in Uasin-Gishu District, now Uasin-Gishu County. I think that is that all. At
Your
this
current
point.
occupation, Mr. Ruto?
At the moment, I'm serving as a member of parliament for Eldoret North constituency in Uasin-Gishu County.
Thank you, Mr. Ruto. You could be seated.
Thank you.
Mr. Kosgey, the same question
Thank you, Your Honor.
addresses you.
I'm Henry Kiprono Kosgey. I was born on 14 July 1947. I'm a Kenyan and currently a member of parliament for Tintred constituency in Nandi County.
Thank you very much. Finally, I will address the same request to Mr. Sang. Mr. Sang, I recall that you had an accident back in April. If you are not feeling fine to stand up when you answer your questions, you may be seated.
Madam President, I'm okay now.
So
My
please,
hand is healed.
yes.
I'm
Identify yourself now, your name.
Joshua Sang. I come from Saum Village, Kajibora Sublocation, Cherangani Division, Cherangani Constituency, Trans Nzoia County. I was born on 9th September 1975, and I work with CAS FM International as a presenter. I'm the head of operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sang. Victims participants were provided with the following rights to be exercised by their legal representative, Ms. Chana: to attend all public sessions of this hearing, to make brief opening and closing statements, to have access to the public record of the case, including public evidence disclosed by the parties, to be notified of all public decisions and filings, and finally, on a case-by-case basis, as Article 68, paragraph 3 provides, where the personal interests of victims are affected by the issue under consideration, and upon a request to the Chamber, they can be authorized to present their views and concerns. Now, we should not forget the judges of the Chamber to briefly explain, mainly for the public, the nature of the hearing and the role that the pretrial chamber has to play. As has been highlighted in a number of decisions issued on behalf of the Chamber, the confirmation of charges hearing is not a mini trial. And in contrast to trial, this Chamber does not have to decide on the person's guilt. Rather, our duty is to act as a filter, distinguishing cases that should go to trial from those that should not, by determining whether there is sufficient evidence to establish substantial grounds to believe that the suspects committed each of the crimes charged as provided for in Article 61(7) of the Rome Statute. Thus, I would like to emphasize that the Chamber does not at all underestimate this hearing, does not undervalue the responsibilities of the prosecutor and his office, and the commitment of the defense, as well as the Chamber's duties assigned by law. However, the Chamber is firmly committed to act within the legal parameters of its responsibilities and not to take over responsibilities of a trial chamber not provided by law to any pretrial chamber of this institution, the International Criminal Court. The Chamber would also like to remind the parties and participants that they themselves have certain obligations pursuant to the statutory documents of the International Criminal Court. In regard to the prosecutor, the Chamber recalls the solemn undertaking pursuant to Rule 6 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. As far as counsels are concerned, the bench also reminds the defense and the victim's legal representative of their solemn undertaking pursuant to Article 5 of the Code of Professional Conduct for Counsel. To sum up, the Chamber expects the parties and the legal representative for victim to respect the statutory provisions, the rulings of this Chamber, and to conduct themselves in a professional manner. Any deviation from these provisions will not be tolerated, and the bench will not hesitate to implement, in particular, Article 71 and Rules 170 and 171, providing for sanctions for misconduct before the court, as well as Chapter 4 of the Code of Professional Conduct for Counsel. The Chamber deems it also important to delineate the principle that shall guide this hearing. First comes the presumption of innocence, prescribing that the suspect is presumed innocent until proven guilty before the court in accordance with the applicable law. Article 66, paragraph 1 of the Rome Statute. Second, the principle that the burden of proof is on the prosecutor, and consequently that it is his obligation to provide evidence sufficient to prove the charges alleged. Third, the defense always has the last word. Further, while there may be some closed or private sessions during this hearing, the general rule is that the hearings will be public.